Hello and welcome back once again to After the Credits. So finally got around to seeing another new movie, fairly new. It's been out a couple weeks maybe, if that. And that was Kubo and the Two Strings. Again, a title that doesn't really make much sense until the end of the movie. Fairly similar to, like I said, in Don't Breathe, where it didn't really come into play until the very end, if that. Kubo and the Two Strings, on the other hand, does come into play at the end, but even then, it still doesn't quite make sense, and I'll explain why. The title of the movie is Kubo and the Two Strings, and you see him play this little guitar thing, and it has 3 strings on it. You can count the tuning pins at the top. There's 3. It always has 3 through the entire movie. But it's called Kubo and the Two Strings. Okay? So early on, you can kind of probably figure out where the 2 strings are going to come into play, but it's not really telegraphed for you, which I liked. We start out with Kubo as a baby. His mother is running away from her father, and they end up washed up on the shore of an island where they end up living in a cave. And we actually find out there's a village nearby, so why they live up on the mountain in this cave instead of living in a house is beyond me, because I'm sure there's probably room available somewhere down in the town, but they decide to stay up on this mountain. Okay, whatever. We find out that when Kubo's mother was trying to escape from her father with Kubo, she developed a head injury, so certain parts of the day, her memory's fine, she can be telling you a story and everything, and then she'll just blank out, and Kubo will be like, "Ma, finish the story," and she'll be like, "I'm sorry, I don't remember it," and then she just kind of trails off even more, and then the next morning she kind of wakes up and she's not really there. Then at a certain point she comes back to life, and she's talking and telling stories again, and then slowly fades out. So it's like an ongoing thing with Kubo every day. It's what he's grown up with. From the time that he was a very small infant, he's sort of been taking care of his mother, so that kind of makes me wonder, how did he get to be this old? Because, I mean, when we start, he's like a real small infant. He's still in like swaddling clothes. And if she just blanks out for half the day like that, how did she take care of him? How did she feed him? Then as she comes back to later on in the day, yeah, she could take care of him up until a certain point, and then she would fade back out. So has her memory gotten worse over time due to the head injury, or is it just a miracle that Kubo's even still alive and she didn't just neglectfully end up killing him as an infant? Of course, it's a kid's movie, so he survives. So Kubo goes down to the village every day while his mother's in her trance-like state, and he tells a story for spare change and whatnot. And everyone in the village loves his story because he has this magic power that as he plays his little banjo thing, he can make paper turn into origami and move around on its own. It's this magic power he has, so everyone loves seeing his stories, because essentially they're played out through these little paper puppets. But the thing with Kubo is he never finishes a story, because he always has to return to the cave before it gets dark. So around a certain time every day, a bell rings, he knows that's when he has to go. So he runs back to the cave, and that's kind of around the time that his mother comes to, and then they have dinner and whatnot and go to bed. You actually find out that the reason Kubo doesn't finish his stories is because he probably doesn't know the ending to most of them, because most of them are stories he's recanting that his mother told him, and since her memory fades out before she's able to finish the story, Kubo never has an ending to his stories. So rather than make up something that's not true, he just leaves it unfinished. We find out that the reason Kubo has to be back into the cave before nightfall is because his father, his mother, and his grandfather are all characters that he's constantly telling stories about. He tells the story of this samurai named Hanzo and how he goes into battle against the moon god, or whatever it was, moon god, moon king, whatever. And we later find out that through Kubo's mother telling him a story that the samurai Hanzo is actually Kubo's father, possibly, because his mother's a little on the border of insane and can't really tell reality anymore. So Kubo's kind of like, maybe she's just making it all up, but, I know my father's name was at least Hanzo, and there was a falling out with my grandfather, so he knows that much, but he thinks a lot of it's story, but he abides by his mother's wishes, and he comes back to the cave by nightfall, because if he's out after dark, the moon god, his grandfather, can see him, because that's when the moon's out, and can find him. So he comes back to the cave, and one night he gets sidetracked doing something else in the village. He goes to the cemetery to try and talk to the spirit of his father, and kind of loses track of time, and it gets dark out. So he runs back through the village, and he's trying to get back to safety, but these creatures are attacking him, and they go through and like burn down the village and everything. He makes it back to his mother, who's back in her right frame of mind at this time, and she basically uses what little magic power she has left to banish Kubo away from these monsters, and he wakes up, and this little toy monkey that his mother gave him a long time ago has come to life and is a full-size monkey who can talk. This is now his guardian. So the guardian monkey. Guardian monkey says, you have to complete your father's quest, find the mystical armor that you tell the story about. There's 3 pieces to the armor, a sword, a chest plate, and a helmet. So the monkey goes, we have to find those. They're the only things that will protect you. So they're traveling, and as they're traveling, trying to find these 3 pieces of the armor, they meet up with a half-man, half-beetle who can't remember anything, but certain things seem familiar to him, and he has like memory flashes to where he sort of remembers things, but not in 100% detail. Similar to kind of what the mother was going through, but not quite as bad. As Kubo's telling him the story of Hanzo, his father, he goes, Hanzo, I believe he was my teacher. So he decides he's going to tag along with them and help protect Kubo from whatever's out there, because he's the son of his master. So now he has 2 guardians, monkey and beetle. Eventually he gets the first 2 pieces of the armor. He's going to get the 3rd one. Spoilers here, sort of. It turns out to be a trap, which obviously if you were following the movie you would have figured that out by now. He's separated from the 2 guardians. They're no longer there to help him. So now he has to fight the moon god on his own. He figures out where the 3rd piece of the armor actually is, and he goes to retrieve it. And it's one of those stories of, you didn't need this magical item to fight this battle. The magic was within you all along. So this quest was basically to help him build up his power and figure out that his true strength was inside all along. Where the 2 strings comes into play, I don't want to spoil that for you. I want to see if you guys can figure it out as you watch the movie. I didn't really spoil a whole lot for you. Eventually it does come down to Kubo fighting against his grandfather, the moon god. Not going to tell you how that plays out. I will say I felt that the ending cheapened it a little bit. It just kind of fell apart at that point, and how it resolved everything was just kind of like, really, after all that, that's how you're going to end it. But overall, the movie wasn't bad. So, again, not spoiling too much of it for you, it plays out how most of these types of movies would play out. You can probably actually figure out a lot of the stuff that I haven't told you just by knowing that that's the type of premise it is. So what would I give it as far as a star rating? I'm going to give this one a 3. Not that it was a bad movie, not that it was just an average middle-of-the-road movie. It was actually kind of fun leading up to everything. But like I said, it was a little bit predictable once you know the type of story arc it's trying to follow. And like I said, the ending kind of pittered out for me, so it loses a little bit for that. Overall, where the 2 strings come into play was an interesting touch, which is why I didn't bump it down any lower than a 3, but I can't really go too much into why that is without spoiling a big part of the movie. So, yeah, I'm going to give it a 3. Not that it was bad, just that it was a little predictable and I wasn't real happy with the ending, but then again, it is a kid's movie, so, what do you expect? So, there you have it. That's my review of Kubo and the 2 Strings. Again, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share the video. The links are in the description. And until next time, we'll see you after the credits.